I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate.
I'm back, Issei called, walking through the door. Welcome home, Issei dear, his mother called back, coming out of the kitchen to greet him. How was your first day? Did you meet any cute girls? His dad hollered. Oh, be quiet, you. Mickey yelled back. Actually, I got a date for this weekend. Quote. Is this true, Yahweh? She asked. I could hardly believe it either, he confirmed. My little boy has his first girlfriend, she exclaimed, hugging him violently. He's all grown up now. That's my son. So, is she cute? Come on, tell us about her. Gabriel goaded, coming into the front room with his mother. Calm down and put me down. You're squishing me, Issei protested his mother's ultimate motherly love attack. Besides, there's more to it than that. She's a fallen angel, but she was hiding it. I think she's up to something. So you do have a plan, Yahweh exclaimed. And here I thought you were a peace-loving guy who went with it because she was cute. That's only half true. Is blushed and turned away, which made little to no sense seeing as Yahweh was inside of his soul. A fallen angel, huh? So, is she dangerous, Yahweh? Gabriel asked, suddenly serious. Well, she wasn't when I was in charge, but it's been a long time. Before you ask, no, I can't tell you why she fell, but it wasn't anything major. The reasons angels fall is something very personal to them. Maybe you shouldn't go then, Mickey said worriedly. I mean, there are plenty more girls, right? You could always wait for Irina or try and meet someone else at school. I'll be fine, Mom. I'm not exactly easy to take down if she tries, Issei chuckled. Besides, it's good to have friends on all sides. Even if she's planning something, it doesn't matter unless she goes through with it. You really believe that? Yahweh asked in surprise. Of course I do. I mean, she could be in bed right now cackling about how easy it'll be to kill me, but as long as she doesn't actually try to do it, I won't hold it against her. Maybe the date'll change her mind, Issei explained. You think you're that enjoyable that a simple date is going to make her give up on her plans. Plus one sin point, you really need to tone that pride down. You're not that fun to be around. Neither are you, but I tough it out, don't I? Issei snapped back. All right, you two, relax. Just make sure you're careful, okay, Issei, she said. I'll be fine, you don't need to worry about me. I'm your mother. It's my job to worry about you. You'll let me worry about you and you'll like it. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Issei quickly stiffened at her tone. Great. She smiled, her tone instantly softening. Well, dinner's almost ready. Why don't you go change and we can eat? Issei turned to his father as she walked back into the kitchen. Scary, Issei shivered. You have no idea, Gabriel agreed, shivering as well. Line break beep, beep. Proverbs 10:4, beep, beep. A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. Beep, beep. Smack. I hate, so much, about the things that you choose to be, Issei groaned as the sunlight assaulted his eyes. You'd better be talking to the clock and not me. Now, get yourself up. Come on, child, move it. Line break. I can't believe it's only the second day, Issei thought to himself, heading past the gates towards the school. I hope every day isn't as eventful as it was yesterday. Hi, Issei, came a feminine voice. Issei turned and saw Katase running up to him with Murayama walking behind her. Good morning. Morning, Katase. Murray, he greeted the two. How are you two? I'm great. Katase smiled her usual bubbly smile. I'm all right, thanks, Murayama added. So, have you thought any more about joining the kendo club? Katase asked. All the girls would love to have you. Even Murray, if she ever admits it. I don't care if he joins or not, Murayama protested, turning away with a slight pink to her cheeks. I appreciate the sentiment, Issei chuckled. I thought about it. I don't think I really have time to be a full-time member. Ah, Issei, Katase pouted. Please, I didn't finish yet, Issei said, poking her nose. But I'd love to come by whenever I have the time to if that's alright. I guess that works, she sighed. But you have to promise to come often, okay? Sure. And, I'll always. Knock first too, Murayama blushed while Katase just giggled. Alright, come on, let's go, class is starting soon. Line break. I'm really glad I'm the sacred gear and not the student, Yahweh grunted and made noises of him stretching. I can sleep through everything. Issei. Are you asleep? Zzz, the sounds of Issei sleeping softly came. Come on, you can share. Wonder what he's dreaming about, wondered Yahweh. I'll just date both of you, he muttered, turning slightly in his sleep. Well, that answers that question, Yahweh sighed. Wake up, Issei. Ah, I'm awake. Not another lap, he shouted, earning strange looks from everyone in class. Before anyone could say anything, the bell rang. All right, class dismissed. Next time, Issei, please stay awake, the teacher sighed before leaving the room. A few of the students snickered while Issei just stood there with an atomic embarrassed blush on his face. Have a nice nap, Issei. Katase giggled. I didn't, he sputtered out. All right, fine, I just didn't expect public school to be this boring. You get used to it. So, are you coming down to the Kino clubroom today? She asked. I think. Issei was interrupted by someone entering the room. Issei Hyodo, she said. Ah, looks like they agreed to meet with me, Issei smiled. Hi, Kaneko, you can come over here if you're coming to get me, you know. I'll wait here, isn't she the cutest? Issei sighed. You gonna get me up to speed? Katase asked. Right, that's Kaneko, I met her. Issei. Everyone knows Kaneko. We call her the school mascot. I meant why is she here looking for you? That's kind of demeaning, Issei scratched his head. Hypocrite. I admit, I'm not much better, but at least I made an effort, he defended. Anyway, her club's president wanted to meet with me. So you're joining her club and not ours. I thought we were friends, Issei. Katase pouted. Don't give me that look. I never said I was joining, I'm just going to meet them. Stop with the puppy dog eyes. Katase just giggled. All right, I forgive you. Just come by tomorrow, okay? Of course. Ready, Kaneko. She didn't answer but just turned around and walked out. Well, see you tomorrow then, Katase. Bye, Issei. Issei, in the meantime, was following Kaneko down the hallway. So, where do we go to meet your king? I've never been to the underworld, so, if we go there, it'll have to be quick. I thought you knew, she said flatly. Knew what? You said that my club president wanted to talk to you. You mean your king is the president of your club? He asked bewildered. I just made something up. It's not as if I can say. I found Kaneko stalking me and found out she was a devil yandere on orders from her king to decide if I'm a threat, can I? Why would someone who lives in the underworld care about you being a threat if you live in Kuo? Kaneko deadpanned. And I'm not a yandere. Issei opened his mouth to respond but shut it again just as quickly. Ha 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 ha, she's got you there. Yahweh roared with laughter. Shut it. So, what club is it and where exactly are we going? The Occult Research Club, the old school building. Not much of a talker, are you? Anyway, sorry for gushing over you so much. If I had known they called you a mascot I would have been a bit more restrained. I just don't really get a lot of contact with others, he chuckled. Kaneko said nothing. Don't get me wrong, you are adorable, I just figured you might have gotten tired of it. I'm sure there's plenty of things to compliment you about aside from that though, I just don't know you very well. As Issei continued to fill the silence, they entered the old school building. After a short walk through the hallways, which were decorated to look like a Victorian-era mansion, they reached a door. Kaneko knocked before walking in. The room was also decorated in a Victorian style, with plush red couches and various candles around the room. Occult paraphernalia adorned some of the walls and desks and there was a large window overlooking the courtyard to one side. So, you're Issei Hyodo? Yes, Issei nodded to the woman sitting at the desk. And you are? I'm Rias Grimori, heir to the Grimori pillar and high-class devil. Kaneko's king, she greeted. Please, have a seat. Well, Issei thought while sitting across from Kaneko. Becoming friends with an heiress could be nice, though I really don't know too much about the devils these days. You don't either, right? Not a clue. The only reason I was able to teach you as much as I did is because, when my host dies, I get access to his memories even if I wasn't activated. Some of them were involved with the supernatural through various means, but I don't recall any of them ever getting to any decent positions with the devils. I think one was a pawn for a few years before dying. So, you know who I am, why don't you tell me who exactly it is you are? Rias asked suspiciously. Come now, Rias, take it easy on our cute underclassman, giggled another young woman who entered with a tray of tea. I'm sure he's harmless. Tea. Sure, thank you, Akano Himahima. I'm Ria's queen, she answered, smiling. So, what is it that you want to know? Issei asked. Kaneko says you're not human. We initially thought you were just a sacred gear user, but it seems you admitted to not being human. So what are you? Rias asked. Ah, couldn't I be both? He grinned. Well, little heiress, how about some information for information? I do really want to be friends, don't get me wrong, but trust is a two-way street. I'll tell you as much as I'm allowed to about myself and you answer some of my questions. Does that work? And what is it that you want to know? Devil politics. I don't really know how it's going down there and I've never been there. I know about the 72 pillars and I'm aware of what an heiress is, but I must admit, I'm behind the times. My most recent knowledge was Satan and his generals dying, Issei chuckled. I wasn't there for that, so don't have a panic attack or anything like that, but I just don't have up-to-date information. Alright, I'll agree to your deal if your answers are satisfactory, Rias nodded. So, as I asked earlier, what are you? Well, I was a human, Issei started. Think you can make my wings white for me? Yeah, give me a second here, Yahweh answered, tinkering around his soul. A loud buzzsaw went off followed by what sounded like a frightened bird and a yowling cat. And stay out, you dang lech. Alright, you're good to go. I don't want to know, and now? Rias asked. Alright, you win, Issei sighed. He released 2 pairs of white, feathery wings and a halo. Issei Hyodo, resident angel. A pleasure to meet you, little heiress. And why, pray tell, is an angel in my territory? Rias asked, charging up some of her resident Baal family destruction magic. Across the room, Kaneko had jumped up and gotten into a fighting stance while Akano was charging lighting on her hands. Now, devils, I'm sure we can all get along, Issei held up his hands. I'm a peace guy, remember? I wrote it in my note. That's why I'm here. Who sent you? No one sent me. I live here, he answered simply. Well, I guess my parents technically sent me. Who are your parents? Akano asked, putting down her hands while the other did the same, though did not drop their guard. Issei simply flopped back down on his couch and relaxed. Oh, lighten up, will you? My parents are pure human, through and through. I'm a bit of a special case. So, you're a brave saint then. Who are you working under and why didn't they tell you that this is my territory? Rias demanded. Brave saint. Close enough. For now, we'll go with that. As for why he didn't tell me, that's a valid question, though I have one in turn. What makes this your territory? I've lived here my whole life, no one told me you owned it. My brother gave it to me to run along with my best friend, the Citri heir, she answered proudly. Oh, no, Yahweh groaned. And why does he get to decide that you own the place? Well, this is devil territory. We claimed it, and you just let a bunch of humans live here and don't tell them it's yours. Well, that's different, she tried to protest. So, the way I understand it, is that you've decided this place belongs to devils. Your brother decided to give it to you as a present and it's your job to make sure no one but devils and humans come here, is that right? So, is there a reason you chose this place or is it just arbitrary? Rias stumbled. Not that you'd tell me if there was, but I get the feeling there isn't. Your brother's either very smart or very stupid. Before you get defensive about anything, let me finish. He managed to make you happy by giving you territory that may or may not be his to give away, but the problem is now there are two heiresses in the same spot. That means that if someone wanted to piss off the devils or just get something from them, all they have to do is kill or kidnap you. Am I right so far? My, Akano giggled. He's a clever one. I've never seen you at such a loss for words, Rias. Great first impression, Issei. You called her brother an idiot. Good point. Didn't think that one through now, did I? Point taken. Rias exhaled and angrily rubbed her eyes. So, regardless of whether you agree or not, this is my territory. I have a right to know who or what comes in here and what they plan to do in case it endangers the people that live here. Actually, I'm rather impressed that you put their safety first, Issei admitted. And sorry about that, I get a little carried away. Tell you what, as an apology, I'll give you some more information. You can choose whether to believe me or not. What kind of information? Well, as you can see, I'm an angel, he said, gesturing to his wings. But I'm not here on anyone's orders. I was just kind of around for most of my life, learning from various people, and my parents wanted me to go to high school for my last 2 years. That's why I'm here. Meeting so many adorable devils is just a bonus. That must be a supernatural thing. You're all so cute. You're getting off topic. Where was I going with this? Oh, right. Anyway, as I said earlier, my whole goal is peace. I see no reason why you have to hunt us angels down or why we have to hunt you devils down. It's pointless and stupid. I'm sure we can all just sit around a big table drinking tea and getting along without stabbing each other to death. So, you're here to try and foster relations between the devils and the angels. Under whose orders? Rias asked. Still, no one's. I told you, I live here. I've lived here since I was a kid, ergo, I chose Kuo Academy. I've done some work under Uriel and Archangel Michael, but neither one sent me here for any purpose. They didn't even tell me that this was devil territory, to be honest. I'll have some words with them about that, he grumbled to himself. Anyway, I was going to tell you that anyway. The extra information is that there are some fallen angels in your territory. We know that. Kaneko told us one of them asked you out, Rias pointed out. True, but I thought you might want some more precision. I may or may not have done some reconnaissance and discovered that there are 4 fallen angels working together at the abandoned church. 2 are high class, 1 is mid class, and 1 is low class. You also might want to know that there is little to no chance that they are working autonomously. If they were, there would only be 1 high class and a hodgepodge of low class. Since there are 2 high class fallen angels there, it stands to reason that there is someone else running them directly behind the scenes, either leader or ultimate class. Apparently, Azazel is a lot like me and is a big peace guy. That's what Michael has told me, anyway. The guy is way more interested in sacred gear research than fighting. That stands to reason that he's not the one in charge of this, seeing as no nonviolent mission would require 2 high-class fallen angels in today's day and age. That means that this is more than likely something violent that Azazel doesn't know about, which means that it's some sort of threat. If it was just Yuma, you wouldn't have to worry. I really didn't know what this meant, but now that I know you and the Cetri heir are here, this makes a lot more sense. Assuming your presence here is common knowledge among the supernatural, my prediction is that a very high-ranking fallen angel defected with some subordinates, whether loyal or by force, trickery, or blackmail, and is attempting to do something to the 2 of you. Whether that be kidnapping you for ransom, murdering the 2 of you as you could be a threat, trying to use you as bait for a trap, I have no idea. There's no real way to know. The room was silent for a few moments as everything processed. You got all of that, just from finding the power levels of fallen angels? Rias asked in shock. I made some leaps, but it's relatively logical reasoning. Keep in mind that this is all conjecture. For all I know, this could be a much larger conspiracy or a much smaller one. I mean, it's entirely possible that they are just trying to escape the Grigori and live normal lives. And you didn't come to that conclusion because? Akano asked. 2 reasons. If you were leaving the Grigori to live a normal life, why would you leave in a group? Besides, as I mentioned, Azazel is supposed to be a peaceful guy. Unless Michael's information is outdated, I doubt he would force people to stay. The main reason though is that they're staying in the abandoned church. They might as well hold up a big sign that says, "We fallen angels are on a mission." Rias, if he's right, this could be dangerous, Akino said. Should you contact your brother? No, this is my territory and I'll handle it. I'll make sure to tell Sona. Sona's the other heiress. Sashitori's an alias. Clever, Issei nodded. Okay, so I guess I have one other question. You said something about having a sacred gear earlier. No, I didn't, he answered, confused. Kiba, Rias called. Yes, President, he answered, coming out from his hiding spot in the closet. I wonder if that's a metaphor, Issei thought. Kiba cleared his throat before reading from a notepad. Rias, we initially thought you were just a sacred gear user, but it seems you admitted to not being human. So what are you, Issei? Ah, couldn't I be both? You have a scribe, Issei asked, bewildered. This is Kiba Yudo, my knight, Rias introduced. Pleasure to meet you, Kiba bowed. Issei Hyodo, he grinned slightly. So, you use the knight's speed to write faster. Man, you are something else, Rias. That's so stupid and so brilliant at the same time, I don't know what to think. Don't avoid the question, Issei. You do realize I have all rights to have you killed for trespassing, right? At the very least this could be a spark that increases the tension and lead to war, Rias threatened. Oh, don't be like that, little heiress. You know as well as I do that you won't do anything as long as you don't see me as a threat. Besides, I'm here to make friends, he waved her off. And I am rather confident that you couldn't kill me if you tried, but let's not test my theory. Oh, and why's that? Tisk, 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 Rias. Don't underestimate someone you just met, All right, why don't you answer some of my questions now, Fine. A short while later, Ria's lesson on the history of devils and the basics of their current political situation finished. Well, that was boring, Issei groaned. You're the one who asked for the information, Rias pointed out. I never said it would be entertaining. True, Issei nodded. All right, got anything else for me? Would you like to join the Occult Research Club? Full time? Nah, I get pretty busy. Besides, Katase would never let me hear the end of it if I did that. I'll split up my after-school time between you and the Kendo Club though if that's all right. Sure thing, Issei, Rias smiled. Okay, well then, I'll see you guys tomorrow, Issei waved but paused before closing the door. Oh, and, one more thing. You guys know about the system of Longinus, right? Yes, why do you ask? Rias asked, tilting her head slightly. Well, why not add a bit of a bonus? God made 13 of those powerhouses. That's what people think, anyway. What I think is that they're missing 2. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye then, Issei waved as he closed the door. Just before it shut, Rias could have sworn she saw his wings flicker gold for a brief moment. Line break once again on his way home, Issei was approaching the bridge. This time, before crossing it, he happened to see a girl standing and looking below at the water. He walked up and stood next to her. Hi, Yuma, he greeted softly. Ah, she squeaked, jumping up and turning around. Issei, you scared me. Sorry about that. What's wrong, Yuma? He asked. Nothing's wrong. She smiled brightly at him, though he could tell it was fake. I didn't expect to see you here this late. I had some stuff at school to take care of, Issei shrugged. Are you sure nothing's the matter? I know we don't know each other very well, but if I'm going to be your boyfriend, I should help you, right? She blushed. Oh, of course. I'm fine, Issei, but cheap. She was cut off by Issei giving her a hug. It'll be okay, Yuma. You don't have to tell me. You're sweet, you know. If something really is wrong, you remember you can come to talk to me, okay? Oh okay, Issei, she nervously replied. All right, I should get home, Issei said, releasing his embrace. And you should too. Remember what I said, it's dangerous around here at night. I know, she whispered. Bye, Yuma, he said, affectionately rubbing her shoulder as he walked off. Remember that you have many chances before you've fallen too far. She stood there smiling and looking at the ground for a moment before his words caught up to her. Wait, he's gone. Sure enough, when she looked up, he was nowhere to be found. He couldn't know, right? Line break, you're really pushing it with all these hints you're dropping, you know that, Issei. Yahweh commented as Issei worked on his homework in his room at his desk. I can't believe I slept through that. Hey, I fail to see how you falling asleep is my problem. Besides, I have faith in Yuma. No one that adorable could be all that bad, right? You are so weak, God deadpanned. Cute people can be evil too. I refuse that notion. Now, if you'll excuse me, Michael's stopping by with the news today, Issei huffed. Roughly 2 years into Issei's training in heaven, Michael started teaching Issei about the job of the seraphim and how God's system worked. Michael hoped that Issei would soon become an archangel and take over his position, and Issei simply wanted peace and to help as many people as possible. So, they decided, Issei would soon be introduced to the seraphim and then the rest of heaven, following which he and Michael would split the duties of God's system. Because of this, Michael would frequently bring Issei news of various happenings of heaven and the churches so that Issei was up to date on important information and the decisions Michael made based on them. Issei occasionally gave input as well, allowing for some basic scenario practice. Today, Michael would stop by the Hyodo residence to discuss various happenings with Issei. Ding dong, that's him. Good timing, I suppose. That's Michael, Mom, Issei yelled. I'll get it. Okay, dear, she called back. Issei headed downstairs to get the door. Hey, Uncle Michael. Hello, Issei, he smiled. May I come in? Yeah, come on. Mom's making dinner. Are you staying for that? I'd love to, but we do have things to discuss first. Yeah, come on. We'll talk upstairs, Issei said, and the two headed back to Issei's room. Once they were settled, they started to chat. So, what's up? Well, there were a few events that were made known to me. First and foremost, apparently Excalibur rapidly has gone missing, Michael began. It's what? Issei yelled. Didn't I specifically say to keep those things in the hands of strong wielders? Don't tell me you're wasting the Holy Sword project. That was the biggest failure I've ever heard of, and you aren't even trying to use his research. Relax, Issei. We're looking for capable wielders. Few exorcists have proven powerful enough, Michael explained. I'll take one if you'd like, Issei volunteered. Well, we'd have to introduce you to the seraphim first, and you aren't exactly the best sword user out there, Michael chuckled. I'm adequate, Issei huffed. All right, so you screwed up keeping another one of the Excalibur fragments from creating a tragedy, and now we can only hope whoever took it isn't planning on taking over the world or something. Actually, that's part of why I came here. Do you have any theories on who took it? You've been second only to Lord Ragel in investigative affairs. Well, you haven't really given me any information to work on. What do you expect me to do here? Let's see. Common enemies of the church, or more specifically the Excaliburs, Issei thought for a moment. Well, the most likely scenario would be that someone just wanted a powerful sword and decided that rapidly was, for whatever reason, the easiest one they could take. They're looking for glory or power or something, who knows? Another possibility could be acquaintances of the victims of the Holy Sword project. It's possible that someone knew one of the children and discovered that Valper killed them, and this is their strange form of justice that they came up with. A third theory would be that someone seeks to weaken the Heaven faction, which would likely be either a terrorist group, a warmonger, or a combination of the two. That's likely the worst-case scenario. If I had any information I could come up with a better theory, but I can't really do much just from the knowledge that someone took rapidly. Sorry, Michael. No, you've done plenty, Issei. You actually came up with more than Lord Ragel did. He only came up with your first theory, Michael praised. I'll be sure to let you know if I get any more information. All right, any good news? Well, no, not really, the Archangel admitted. More bad news. I actually had to come to tell you this in person so you didn't freak out. Oh, Lord, what did you do now? Issei groaned. God hummed. Shei shamashing, Issei. No, Yahweh, are you eating something? Yeah. You. You can eat. In my soul, you weren't supposed to know about that. Just ignore me and finish talking to Michael. Did Father say something? Michael chuckled. Apparently he can eat food in my head, Issei deadpanned. Now tell me what you did or failed to do. All right, calm down, Issei. So, you remember that saint from Italy? The Holy Maiden. Yes, the one that you determined was so special she should be treated like a prisoner. I didn't order that, Michael defended. You also did nothing to stop it, Issei pointed out. Anyway, she's currently in the process of being excommunicated. She's what? Issei yelled. What in God's name could she have done? Well, that's the thing. She healed a devil. That's it. Issei looked down and clenched his fist. You're telling me, a dedicated nun and the Holy Maiden, is being excommunicated for doing her job? Unfortunately, yes, Michael sighed. And what are you doing to stop it? You know I can't do anything, Issei. Heaven is desperate. If we impeded on the trial of someone that's been nearly universally declared as a heretic, we'd lose huge sections of the church. Worst case scenario, the Vatican could rebel. That's absurd and you know it. The church was built on the principles of forgiveness, kindness, and love. Not rules, regulations, and race. Issei protested. Yahweh, back me up here. It's a tough situation, Issei. Unfortunately, the idealistic beliefs we share are not necessarily universal. What are you? Let me finish, Issei, Yahweh interrupted. That's why we have these discussions with Michael. You are absolutely correct in your assessment, Issei. The church was built on my principles and I truly believe in forgiveness and love, but that's not always possible. Idealistic thinking is just that, ideal. The key to being a leader is a mix of ideals and reality. Unfortunately, Michael is right. What's happening to the Holy Maiden is terrible and if there was anything I could do to help her I would, but, as a leader, you must make the necessary choices. Sacrificing one for the good of many is the most painful decision that leaders are sometimes forced to make. It's only something that leaders could understand, but it's a pain you have to bear in order to be successful. Issei clenched his fist. That's just not fair. She doesn't deserve that. I understand, Issei. I'll do everything I can for her and if there's anything you can do to help as well, I'll tell you immediately. Thank you. Well, with the two biggest issues out of the way, there are some other minor things. Let's see here. Church upgrades in Germany. Yes, strange prayers coming from the United States about foreigners. Gabriel begging to see my Jack. No, not that one. Japanese restaurant to be built in heaven, interesting, but... What was that last one? Issei interrupted. Oh, there's a Japanese restaurant that's... No, the one before that. That one. Yeah, for some reason there's been a large increase in prayers from the United States. After that, come on, Michael, right, sorry, yeah, Gabriel has been pestering me about how she hasn't gotten to meet you in person yet. Something about, it's unreasonable to keep my brave saints hidden for so long, and, we're both seraphim and siblings so I should know better to keep secrets from her. And, what did you tell her? Issei pressed. I said I'm sure the situation would come up eventually, Michael shrugged. Why were you put in charge again? Issei groaned. Like father, like son, I swear. What's that supposed to mean? What's that supposed to mean? Yahweh and Michael yelled at the same time. Nothing, Issei said innocently. So, is Gabriel covering for your work in sixth heaven right now? Yes, she usually covers for me when I have to come down. She doesn't get as much paperwork since she's heaven's usual messenger. Why do you? Issei. Michael. Dinner's ready, Mickey shouted. Thank you very much, Mickey. We'll be down in a moment. Michael called back. He turned back to Issei. That's Issei. Where'd you go? Line break. Issei walked up towards the gates of heaven. Halt. Identify yourself. Hey, Peter. Long time no see. Issei Hyodo, Lord Michael's Jack. You may enter. Good day to you, Lord Hyodo. I said not to call me Lord. Issei groaned, walking through the gates. Issei walked along the path of first heaven towards the elevator. He could have just teleported, but taking the elevator was relaxing, so he preferred doing it whenever possible. After reaching the sixth level, the elevator stopped and let him out, allowing Issei to walk towards the path to Michael's office. After a few minutes, he reached the door and knocked. Knock knock. You may enter, a feminine voice called from inside. Issei opened the door and was instantly stunned in shock. Her title of, Most Beautiful Woman in Heaven, didn't do her any justice. Not meeting Gabriel before now would continue to be his greatest mistake in life for as long as he should live. Even though she was sitting down, Issei could tell she was rather short. She had long blonde hair and a pair of innocent-looking green eyes, an eternal smile on her face. "Hello, who might you be?" "Wow," he breathed out. "Beautiful," Gabriel giggled, probably used to it at this point. "Thank you very much, dear. You're pretty cute yourself. Are you looking for Michael?" "That's my daughter, you know. I'm giving you 100 sin points for even having the opportunity to think lecherous things about her." Yahweh complained. No. Michael, elsewhere. Wow, wake up. "Ah," Issei shouted, shaking himself out of his stupor and taking a knee. "I'm so sorry. Forgive me, Lady Gabriel. I never intended. I just didn't, I'm sorry." Gabriel giggled more. "You're a curious one. I like you already. Now, mind giving me your name?" "Of course. My name is Issei Hyodo. Michael said you wanted to meet his Jack, so I came over to see you." "Oh, really? Well, let's go then. Where is he?" Gabriel stood. My lady, yes, that would be me. Quote. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize." Gabriel flushed. "He never gave me your name. You can get up, you may rise." "Thank you, Lady Gabriel." Issei stood. "He stopped by to tell me about a few, less than pleasant things. And he also mentioned that you'd wanted to meet me." "Yes, I did. I'm Gabriel, Michael's sister and one of the 4 great seraphim," she introduced. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I can't believe Michael's been hiding someone like you for so long." "That's the most adorable thing I've ever seen," Issei thought to himself as Gabriel pouted. "Watch it, brat," Yahweh warned. "Ahem. Yes, well, that's partially my fault," Issei admitted. "You see, considering you're now too much of a stuttering and embarrassed mess to come up with a convincing lie, I might as well greet my daughter," Yahweh said aloud. "Hello, Gabriel, it's been a long time." "That sounds like," Gabriel gasped. Your father. Why did all 3 of you have that same reaction?" "No, if I was coming back, I would take a much more appealing form. And I certainly wouldn't have my brain break down by looking at my daughter." "Issei. She shut up." Issei stumbled out. "She's known as the most beautiful woman in heaven. Not, if you look at her your brain will melt because of how perfect she is." "You just said that out loud, you know," God sighed. Half of Gabriel processed what Issei had said, so her body reacted in an atomic blush, but the other half was still registering her father's voice. "I'll explain, my dear daughter. I'm currently inside the boy. I sealed myself in a Longinus as well, I've just never been awakened before." "So, she whispered, approaching Issei slowly before latching on to him and bawling. "Father, you're back. I missed you so much. I was so sure you weren't dead. I always knew it. Michael kept saying that you were gone, Raphael and Uriel too. I wouldn't believe them. I always knew you'd come back. Father. Now, dear. It'll be fine," Yahweh reassured. "Host, comfort my daughter." "Did you just call me host?" Issei yelled back. "Fine. All right, Lady Gabriel, everything's going to be just fine. Shish, why don't we have a seat, okay?" "Father," she muttered, nodding in Issei's chest, who led her over to the couch and the two sat down. "Well, I did not see that coming. She's always been very emotional. Now you see why Michael wanted to wait." "Kind of, but at the same time, no. I should have told her earlier. She's thought you were dead for millennia and I could have spared her 9 years of heartbreak. I was too concerned for my own safety. Soon, we're coming clean to all of heaven. If that's what you wish for, you really are too kind for your own good. Listen, Lady Gabriel. I'm really sorry. I've known about Yahweh for 9 years and I've been working with Michael for 4. We decided to keep it a secret so I would be ready. I should have thought about how everyone else would feel. Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing Father back to me." "I really didn't do anything," he answered sheepishly. He chose me. I'm just his host. I hate to admit this, but you're more than just a host, brat." You're becoming a fine successor and I look forward to seeing you run my system someday. That means a lot to me, thanks, Uncle Yahweh. Gabriel started to giggle, then she started to laugh. Harder and harder she laughed for over a minute straight before starting to calm down. What is it? It's just really funny, she sighed, wiping the tears from her eyes. You called father Uncle Yahweh. I can't remember the last time anyone called him anything aside from a title. Well, I was only 8 when we met, he admitted. But it just kinda stuck. Well, if you're on such good terms with my father, you can just call me Gabriel. Are you sure, my lad? Issei was cut off by her finger over his lips. Gabrielle, not Lady Gabriel or my lady. Gabriel, got it, Issei nodded. Good. God made several grumbling noises of displeasure in Issei's mind. What is it? My daughter. You're too close to my baby girl and I don't like it. This time, Issei started to laugh. What are you laughing at, Issei? Gabriel asked. Yahweh's complaining that I'm too close to you. Issei chuckled, causing Gabriel to realize she was still half on top of him. Eep, she squeaked, once again breaking Issei's mind in cuteness overload. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. You broke him again, Yahweh sighed, causing Gabriel to let out another giggle. Well, thank you for introducing yourself, Issei, Gabriel said, regaining her composure. Come visit me lots, okay? Of course, Gabriel, Issei corrected. Much better, she smiled. Gabriel stopped him before he could leave. One more thing, Issei. Yes, what is? Issei was cut off by Gabriel giving him a kiss on the cheek. Thanks for bringing father back home. Quote. You still there, Gabriel? Yes, father, what is it? He's totally stopped all mental functions. Hold on, I'll get the AED ready. Yahweh yelled. All right, now, clear. Gabriel giggled. Are you always like this now, father? I've been around Issei for 9 years now. I picked up a few things, Yahweh shrugged. Before Issei comes back around, I have one more thing to tell you. What is it, father? I approve. Quote. Father, Gabriel whined, blushing aggressively. We just met. I know and you'd better hurry or be willing to share. My host is very popular among women. Oh, he's coming back to us. Gabriel, thank you, Issei stuttered out. Good work, Issei. You almost managed to say a full sentence properly around my daughter. Hey, I'm fully capable of speaking full sentences. Issei yelled back. Anyway, goodbye, Gabriel. Bye-bye, Issei. She waved, smiling brightly. Thank you. The rest of the week was fairly uneventful for Issei, is what Issei would have preferred to be the case, though, unfortunately, it wasn't. Friday afternoon after school, Michael returned to his residence with more, less than fortunate news. Flashback. Ding dong. Issei, are you expecting anyone? Mickey called to her son, walking to the door. No, Issei yelled back. The Hyodo matriarch opened the door to reveal Michael standing there with a look of tension. Hello, Mrs. Hyodo. May I see Issei? It's rather urgent. Of course, Michael, and please, I keep telling you to call me Mickey. We've known each other for years now. Of course, my apologies, he nodded, entering the house. He's upstairs, I presume. In his room, yes, she nodded. Knock first. Unfortunately for Michael, that last part didn't quite register for him as he quickly headed upstairs and opened his door. Issei, this is and what are you doing? Nothing. Issei quickly hid the materials that covered his desk. What are you doing here? Also, why didn't you think to tell me that devils owned this territory? That's kind of important for maintaining peace. I knew I forgot some. Don't change the subject. Michael shook his head. Move. No, wait, Issei protested but was shoved over by the hurried Michael to reveal his desk, which was covered in every document, book, passage, and article ever written about Gabriel. I can explain. Is father all right with this? He asked, eyeing him suspiciously. He's asleep, of course he is. I don't really have time to deal with your obsession with my sister, nor do I have time to yell at you for going to see her without telling me. Put all of this away and wake up, father, this is important. Right, Issei nodded, quickly recognizing his serious tone. Issei put away all his definitely not yandere-esque research and shook Yahweh up. Well, mentally shook him awake. More accurately permanently scarred him forever. Uncle Yahweh, quick, someone is trying to do lewd things to Gabriel. They, trying to do what? Yahweh roared from within Issei. Get ready, Issei, we're going beyond balance, why are we in your room? Sorry, Michael said it was an emergency and I knew nothing could get you in a serious mood quicker than her safety. That was cold, brat. Don't do that again, all right, you two, stop arguing and listen up, Michael insisted. 2 more Excalibur fragments were reported missing, Nightmare and Transparency. We also have more concrete information. This right here is why I said give the sword to exorcists. Issei shouted. All right, continue, sorry. As I was saying, we have more concrete information on who took them as well. It was a fallen angel, though we don't know which one exactly. What we do know is that he's heading here with them. To Kuo. Okay, calm down, Issei. Archangel Michael did not just tell you that a fallen angel is coming to your town with 3 stolen fragments of Excalibur to possibly create everlasting damage to the entire world. Actually, I'm aware, he yelled. Okay, I need to think about this rationally. Start from the beginning. What is it, exactly, that led you to the conclusion that, not only was it a fallen angel in all 3 incidents, but that they're coming here with them? Well, first off, there were multiple eyewitnesses in the latest theft of Transparency, Michael started. Oh, the irony, Yahweh chuckled. This is really not the time, Issei groaned. So that confirms it is a fallen angel. Just one, Issei asked, getting a nod in response. All right, and we don't know exactly who it was, but I think I can narrow it down. Give me a minute. Well, I suppose I was wrong. Looks like there really was a reason for keeping that old thing, Yahweh mused. What exactly is he looking for? Michael asked. Just an old list of all high-ranking members of the angels and the fallen angels. Where did he? I showed him some of my stuff, Yahweh shrugged. What? Don't look at me him like that. Of course I kept records. I was God, after all. And you never thought to tell me about that. Wait, is that thing even up to date? In my defense, I did die, and of course it is. Do you think I had time to keep track of everyone by hand? No, it's connected to my system. Every time one of them disappears from the system, their name is crossed out. Every time an angel falls, it switches to the fallen category. From there, they are listed alphabetically by wing count. That seems really convenient, Michael said, still rather surprised. Once again, I was God. How do you think I was so good at my job? Magic is a really useful tool, Michael. You should use it more often. Michael actually looked a bit embarrassed by that, but Issei finally found what he was looking for. Here it is. So, how exactly is this going to help? Well, Issei began, opening the book to the Fallen Angel section. I need you to give me every detail possible about the fallen angel. Nothing would help more than a wing count, but physical description, personality description, or style of attack could help a little bit. Right, he was confirmed to have 5 pairs of wings, but that's all the report said. It gave no other physical descriptions at all. That's why we're not sure. That could be any of the cadre, Michael sighed. Not necessarily. Issei shook his head, flipping to the 5-winged section. Remember, we have Yahweh here. Now there are 10 listed as 5-winged fallen angels here and too many crossed out than I'd bother to count, though being crossed out, they're assumed to be deceased and thus not suspects. In order alphabetically, the list is Amaros, Barakiel, Harut, Moloch, Kokabil, Penemu, Sahariel, Satanel, Shemhazai, and Tamiel. Firstly, Michael, are there any names here you do not recognize? Well, I guess Harut and Moloch. Michael answered. I mean, I know them, but they aren't part of the Grigori. Good, we can take those away. Issei, don't you think you're jumping to conclusions a bit too fast? Wouldn't them not being aligned with the Grigori make them more suspicious? Yahweh asked. No, you're thinking too small. While yes, it is theoretically possible that one of those 2 stole the pieces of Excalibur of their own volition, We need to think rationally and following a train of logic that would be reasonable. Someone has to go out of their way to steal one Excalibur. They are in high-level seals and relatively well guarded. It's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to take one, and it certainly comes with risk. This person took 3 of them. Tell me, who is capable of wielding 3 swords at once? Pretty much no one except that one guy from Naruto. That comes to suggest that there is an ulterior motive than what we initially suspected, which was a thief looking for fame, glory, and/or power. I'm following, Michael nodded. Good. Now, we know that someone not aligned with the Grigori is unlikely to be accepted by another faction. Therefore, if it were one of those two, they would be aligned with a terrorist group, because, as we've established, it's exceedingly unlikely that this was done by someone working on their own. That could mean that they are part of a terrorist group, but they tend to move differently. When groups like that make their moves, you either never know about it, or everyone knows about it. Getting seen and leaving evidence like that isn't like a terrorist group that would be strong enough to house a 5-winged fallen angel with a plan that involved the Excalibur fragments. If a terrorist group was capable of something like this, they'd make a massive show of it so everyone knew it was them, not some tiny hint like this. Now, that leaves us with 8 members. All of these are aligned with the Grigori. Yes, they're all part of the Cadre, which is the governing body of the fallen angels, sort of like the 4 great seraphim of heaven, Michael explained. Now, we simply go down the list of who we know is likely or unlikely to be able to pull something like this off. As we know, Azazel is a peace advocate, therefore, it is likely that his second-in-command is as well. No leader chooses a right hand that disagrees with their main goal. They choose one who is either an echo chamber, in the case of a foolish leader, or one who has the same goal with different ways of going about it. Michael, who is second in command of the fallen angels? Azazel is the governor general, seconded by Shemhazai, the vice governor general. After that, it would be Barakiel, I believe. So, that leaves us with 7 names left: Amaros, Barakiel, Kokabil, Penemu, Sahariel, Satanel, and Tamiel. Going down the list, what do you know about Amaros? Either of you, Yahweh or Michael. He was a big fan of Azazel. Practically worshipped the ground he walked on, more so than me, Yahweh said. Perfect. Azazel wants no business in conflict. The Grigori stealing Excalibur would undoubtedly start another great war, so it's reasonable to say Amaros is off the list. Barakiel. He lost his wife and daughter around 10 years ago if my memory serves correctly. Since then, he's been distant from what Azazel told me. You're in contact with Azazel? Issei asked. Why didn't you say that earlier? Not really, no, we do speak occasionally, we are siblings after all, but in regards to our factions, it's rare. Idiots, Issei mumbled. All right, just to clarify before I move on, was it or was it not the angels that killed Barakiel's family? Whether by your order or not, is there some possible connection between that incident and the faction of heaven? None. Thank God. Issei sighed, mentally crossing off Barakiel's name as well. Kokabil next. Yeah, nothing good to say about that guy. He loved war, always laughing on the battlefield, hungering for stronger opponents. The guy was insane. Once again, something you should have said earlier. Okay, as of now, he's our main suspect. Next is Penemu. The 3 continued going down the list until all suspects had been exhausted of all information. So, as of now we have suspicions of Kokabil and Satanel. Kokabil has a motive, being that he loves conflict and nothing says conflict like a war. He has the attitude, and he has the ability to get followers. Satanel we simply have no way to clear suspicion of. I think it's obviously Kokabil. That's great and all, but that doesn't necessarily help us solve the issue, Michael pointed out. I'm not done yet. Now, we know who did it, we reason out why he did it. This is simply a matter of using logical reasoning and risk versus reward analysis to come up with hypotheses on his reasoning, and we pick from those which is the most likely and proceed based on that, so long as it wouldn't negatively impact any of our other theories in case one of those happened to be correct. Now, think. A fallen angel cadre steals 3 fragments of Excalibur from the church. Why? Issei closes his eyes and thinks for several minutes. I think this is lining up nicely. Before I finish that thought though, how do you know Kokabil, or I suppose I should say, our suspect, is going to Kuo? We were able to track his destination with the swords to Japan. Japan is largely a devil-owned area, so we used every available resource to locate any other fallen angels in the region, and the only signatures we were able to get were found here. That's surprisingly good deductive reasoning. If he told you or dropped a note, we might have to rethink this whole thing, but I'd say I've got a pretty good theory. It's not necessarily a good thing, but I think it's accurate. Well, are you going to tell us, or are you going to leave us in suspense while you go to a commercial break like those anime you watch? I'm touched that you paid attention for once, Issei said sarcastically. But no, all right, remember, this is all just conjecture made off probability, logical reasoning, and assumptions made from not necessarily reliable sources. That doesn't sound reassuring, Michael pointed out, sounding relatively worried. It doesn't need to. I think you'll agree with me. Anyway, here it is. Gabriel is a combat-loving warmonger. He wants and craves conflict, right? So, it stands to reason that he and Azazel do not get along. Since Shemhazai is in agreement with Azazel, Gabriel is now stuck in peace. Since he cannot convince the leadership to go back to war, he'd need to wait for one of the other factions to initiate the conflict. That hasn't happened yet, so now it's up to him to reignite the war. He steals the Excalibur fragments, powerful weapons revered by the Church. What does he want to do with them? He wants it known that the fallen angels stole them, so he hinted that it was them by making himself seen. This makes the angel faction aggressive towards the fallen angel faction. It was a member of the cadre, so us believing that it wasn't done under the leadership's knowledge isn't something we'd necessarily be willing to accept and move on with. It would be different if a low or mid-class fallen angel stole one fragment seeking glory, but no. This is a cadre stealing three. Gabriel knows we couldn't overlook that, so we'd now be forced into conflict with the fallen angels. With that conflict set up, he takes the swords to Kuo. A known devil territory, thanks for telling me that by the way, and home to Rias Grimori and Sona Citri. Two pure-blooded heiresses of surviving pillar families. What next? He kills them with the holy swords. Murdering the two devil heiresses in devil territory will enrage the devils, forcing them to retaliate against the fallen angels, but not just them, they would also retaliate against us. We failed to protect such powerful weapons, ergo, whether we committed the murders or not, we were indirectly responsible. Holy weapons of that caliber are extremely effective at killing devils. Now the devils and the angels are angry at the fallen angels. The fallen angels are forced into combat with the attacking parties, and the angels are defending themselves against the devils while attacking the fallen angels, which reignites the three-way war and frees Gabriel from punishment, as Azazel will be unable to get rid of one of his strongest warriors in a time of war. You know, sometimes I think you're secretly a genius and just act dumb all the time, Michael chuckled. I can get behind your theory in full. What you might not have known is that Searsex Lucifer is Rias Grimori's brother and is known for being overprotective of her. Seraphal Leviathan is Sona Citri's sister and is even more protective. Them dying would set those two on a rampage that would leave this world in ruin. Two of the four demon lords are Siskins. Issei deadpanned. You have got to be kidding me. No, Michael shook his head. I disappear for a few thousand years and this whole world falls apart, Yahweh grumbled. Now comes the next question. What do we do about this? Issei asked. Can't you? No, Issei. Fighting Gabriel is just as dangerous. A seraphim fighting a cadre on devil territory is just as likely if not more likely to start a war. This is an extremely delicate situation. I'll go back and run your theory by Lord Ragel and the rest of the seraphim and get back to you by Sunday. You'd better hurry. I have a bad feeling about all this. Thank you so much for all your help. Just don't forget, Issei said before he left. Once this is all over, I'm making myself known to heaven. I understand, Michael nodded, before teleporting out. What kind of a mess have we gotten into now? Issei groaned. Flashback end. It was now Saturday afternoon and Issei was preparing to leave for his date with Yuma. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Yahweh questioned. Absolutely. Besides, even if I wasn't sure, it's too late now. Me not showing up would just give her more of a reason to hurt me. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I know. You really are obsessed with that guy. You're the one who told me to study great leaders. He's my personal favorite. The master of all things war is the favorite leader of peace-loving Issei Hyodo. I'm aware of the irony. Issei finished dressing and prepared to set off. Off to your date, honey? Mickey asked him. Yep, he nodded. Okay, just be careful, okay? And make absolutely sure you stay safe and come back home. Call us when you're on your way back and don't be too late. Make sure you use protection if the two of you. Mom, Issei shouted, blushing. I'll be fine, please stop. I might need to get a calculator for all these sin points you're racking up, running out of room in here. You be quiet, make sure she's a keeper, Issei. Don't start on those grandchildren too soon, got it? Guro added, ruffling his son's hair. Now go make your dad proud and spread the family name. You are both so inappropriate, Issei groaned. I'm leaving now, goodbye. Bye, Issei, they both waved as he left. Ah, young love, Mickey sighed. Line break. Issei and Yuma planned to meet downtown near the shopping area for their date and Issei had just arrived at the corner. Good, right on time, Issei thought to himself. He stood there for a few minutes just casually waiting for her arrival when someone carrying flyers came up to him. She was a fairly tall woman with a bat-like outfit and lots of makeup. Make your wish come true, she said, handing him a flyer. Issei inspected the flyer, which held a magic circle and the text, "Make a contract with the devil and make your wish come true." On the back was a series of instructions on how to use the contract, the accepted payments, and some rules and regulations for the wishes, such as no wishing for sexual favors, harming innocents, etc. I'll have to ask Rias about this, Issei thought to himself as he put the flyer in his pocket. Issei, called a feminine voice running up to him. Issei, I'm here. There you are, Yuma. I was beginning to think you didn't want to see me, he teased. Of course I did. She blushed slightly. You haven't been waiting too long, have you? Not long at all, just a few minutes, he replied, holding out his hand. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Okay. She smiled, taking his hand and laughing as he pulled her along with him. Where are we going? Well, what better first date than going shopping? You get to get a bunch of stuff, I get to pay for it for some reason, and we can talk. Issei grinned, pulling her so she was next to him and keeping pace. Where do you want to go first? Oh, I really don't know. How about over there? She suggested, gesturing to a clothing store. Sounds good to me. Issei smiled and held her hand as the two walked towards the store. The two chatted amicably while they walked over and, as it turned out, Yuma was quite the fan of fashion. Her eyes lit up the whole time she was picking out clothes while Issei chuckled at her excitement. She put on a mini fashion show for him, with Issei pretending to be the paparazzi and snapping photos with an imaginary camera while she posed in various outfits. Yuma tried to insist she pay for everything, but while she was changing into her normal clothes from her final outfit, which she decided she wasn't a fan of, Issei quickly ran over towards the cashier with the pile and purchased the stuff. Issei, Yuma whined when she finally caught up with him just as he was finishing up buying all the clothes. I told you I was going to pay for everything. Did you? I don't remember you saying that, Issei said, pretending to be confused. I'm serious. I wanted to buy those, she complained, but her smile gave her away. I suppose you can pay for them, Issei mused, thanking the cashier and walking out with the bag. Or, we could go get something to eat while I try to change the subject. As long as you let me, of course, I'll have to buy lunch too, Issei reasoned. It's only natural, after all. I'm just a lowly peasant attempting to court such a lovely angel. There's no way he could know, Yuma thought, panicking slightly. Why would he go with me if he knew? It has to be a coincidence. All a coincidence, I just have to finish him off and then I'll be safe from him. I think you're going too far with the hints. She's second-guessing herself, Yahweh noted. Yeah, you're probably right, Issei admitted. Well, come on, you picked the store, so do you want to pick the restaurant or should I? Oh, right, well, I picked first so I guess you can pick next, Yuma replied. All right, let's go, he grinned and grabbed her hand again. They spent the rest of the day having fun at various stores and other entertainment areas. Yuma even teased Issei by offering to go into a lingerie shop, which temporarily broke his brain, much to her amusement. By the end of the day, Yuma requested to go to the park, which Issei was all too happy to oblige. Issei had enjoyed his time immensely with Yuma, loving every second he spent with the girl, and, much to her chagrin, Yuma loved it too. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, Yuma told herself repeatedly, mentally preparing for what she knew she had to do. Hey, Yuma, Issei said, can you do something for me? I can do. Wait, that's my line. Yuma thought. What is it, Issei? Sit down and close your eyes, he told her, patting the edge of the fountain that was in the middle of the park. She looked at him hesitantly for a moment before doing as he asked. Issei reached into his pocket and pulled out a box with a necklace he'd gotten while Yuma had gone to the restroom. He covered it up by saying he forgot something in a different store and that he'd meet up with her later, but was actually buying her a gift. It was a silver chain necklace with a center ornament that was a small heart with 2 angel wings coming off of it. As soon as Issei saw it, he knew that Yuma needed to have it. All right, open. What did? She gasped as she looked and saw the necklace that he held in his hand. Issei, can I put it on you? She didn't reply, just nodded, still in shock at the gift. There, it looks beautiful, Yuma. She looked down at it as Issei sat next to her and looked out at the night sky. I can do this, I can do this, I can't do this. I can't do this. Yuma, Issei said softly, pulling her into his arms. You don't even realize, do you? You're crying. I'm crying, she thought in shock, as she reached to touch her face. Sure enough, tears were running down her cheeks, soaking her face. Yuma, what happened to you? He asked softly as she buried herself into his chest and sobbed. You don't have to hide from me, you know. I've known the whole time. You're a fallen angel. Yuma is your old name from before you fell, isn't it? She pulled back in a mixture of shock and fear. How could he? Shish, it'll be okay, Yuma, he insisted, pulling her back towards him. I know that, whatever it is you're trying to convince yourself you can do, that you don't want to. You brought me here tonight to kill me, didn't you? Yuma's heart stopped for a second. She was terrified. Issei, she's scared. Poor thing is frightened beyond her wits, Yahweh spoke sadly. I'm not going anywhere and I'm not going to hurt you, Issei spoke confidently. No one is going to hurt my Yuma. She blushed fiercely but calmed down slightly as she continued to cry. You sound like a dragon, Yahweh deadpanned. Could you tell me what happened, Yuma? There's a lot I know and I get the feeling that you want no part of it. I'm really worried for you, but I can't help you if you won't talk to me, okay? He spoke quietly, stroking her back as he did so. Do you think you can tell me? Yes, Yuma sniffed as she sat back up. It's all true. I was told to kill you. I used to be an angel, but, a long time ago, I fell. I always admired Azazel as an angel. So, when he and the rest of the Grigori fell, I didn't really know what to do. I wanted to go with him, but I didn't want to fall. I wanted to stay in heaven with everyone else. One day, I went to visit him and another fallen tried to take me, to capture me and use me as a toy. So, I killed him. His lover came in and found me over him covered in blood and I panicked and killed her too, afraid of what she would do. It was a needless kill for nothing other than my fear, so I fell. Azazel took me in after I told him that I chose to fall to follow him and I never told anyone about what I did. Yuma, he whispered, grabbing her in an even tighter hug. I'm so sorry. I wish you never had to talk about that again. Before you ask, I couldn't forgive her. Not because her actions weren't forgivable, but because to return an angel to grace is a long process initiated by the fallen one. The war started before she got the chance, if she would have taken it anyway. Yuma is a victim of fear and circumstance. I may not have your detective brain, but I'd be willing to bet that Gabriel or whoever the mastermind is blackmailing her with information about her killing those two and she's too afraid of what others will think if they find out. Besides, any cadre member could kill her easily, high class or not. I know, it's idealistic to expect such a thing. But I'm different than you. I will be idealistic because Yuma deserves forgiveness and I will give it to her. No matter what it takes. Yuma, do you trust me? What? She asked, looking up at him. Do you trust me? He repeated, taking one of her hands in his. I can help you. I just need you to trust me. She hesitated. She hadn't trusted anyone in all this time, but by now, what did she have to lose? If he was lying to her, she'd be killed. If she went back to Kokabeel, she'd be killed there too. She was beyond lost. She was. Yuma, there's always time before you've fallen too far. I do, she said softly. I do trust you, Heavenly Crown. He spoke in a regal tone, releasing his 5 pairs of shimmering golden wings and his blinding crown that replaced his usual halo, filling the park with holy light as he reinforced the barrier he'd activated while she had her eyes closed. What are you doing? She started to panic but was instantly calmed when Issei pressed his forehead against hers. Shish. Everything's fine. Just trust me, okay? No matter what, I won't ever hurt you, Issei said, somehow making her feel safer than she'd ever felt before. Balance breaker. Cherry 2 Theo. Balance breaker. Hand of God, an immense holy aura washed over her as Issei shone even brighter than he already was, as his outfit was replaced with one similar to Archangel Michael's. He had gold, armored shoulder plates and holy robes. His shimmering golden wings surrounded her, keeping the two of them in a cocoon of feathers and holy energy. His eyes seemed to glow with soft light, lulling her into a sense of peace and safety. As if, as long as she stayed here, with him, nothing could ever go wrong. Nothing would ever hurt her again. Well, this is interesting, God mused. I am the Lord thy God, who brought about the rule and righteousness so that the strong should not harm the weak. Issei began to chant as the holy aura started to condense around them. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. By my name as thy Lord and Holy Father of heaven, you, Yuma Amano, are forgiven. A speechless Yuma Amano watched as her wings were forced out of her body and the holy aura flooding out from Issei entered her wings, slowly cleansing the black feathers and turning them a feathery, pillowed white. A small white halo began to shine above her head and glowed with holy light. Her plumage began to shimmer in the moonlight as Issei smiled at her. Soon after, though, the power started to overwhelm her. She started to feel dizzy and her body started to ache as if there was a war going on in her soul. Soon after, she collapsed on the ground, her tired body unable to take the foreign sensations any longer. Yuma, Issei panicked, dropping his sacred gear and shaking her, trying to wake her up. What happened? Her pulse. It's slowing down. Yahweh, help me. I told you, Issei. Forgiving an angel isn't that simple. You managed to bypass the system, which is more than a little impressive, but you couldn't fully control it and once you lost control, the system is trying to fight your aura within her body. No. I can't do wait. The deck. I can use the deck. Issei remembered, reaching into his magic space and pulling out a box filled with 13 extraordinarily powerful playing cards. You're not allowed to do that, Issei, Yahweh warned. I don't care, he shot back, pulling out a card. This is my fault. I was impatient, foolish, overly emotional, and naive. I know that. Just please. Let me fix this. Child, he sighed. You are all of those things, but above all, you possess the kindest and gentlest soul I have ever seen. All you do is done for the sake of others, all you preach is what you follow, and all you believe is right. Even if I didn't approve of this, I can't stop you, but I do. Go on, Issei, save the girl, she's earned it. Thank you, he whispered, tears pooling in his eyes. He removed one of the cards and placed it over her chest. I, Issei Hyodo, invoke the grace of the Lord, to invite thee among the ranks of heaven. Join in singing his praises and guard the land in which he made. Become a guardian of heaven and serve me as my the 10 of crowns. The card began to glow white before sinking into Yuma's chest and causing her body to glow briefly, a tattoo on the back of her hand appearing briefly, showing the number 10 above a shimmering white crown. Her breathing began to return to normal as she slowly but surely opened her eyes and the tattoo vanished from her skin. Good job, Issei. I'm proud of you. Today you've learned the lesson many fail to ever learn. A good man makes mistakes. A great man makes mistakes and fixes them. That is something that will never change in the never-ending expanse of time itself, Yahweh praised. Issei, Yuma whispered, looking up at Issei who sat next to her prone figure tightly holding her hand. What happened? What should have happened long ago, Yuma, what should have happened long ago, he answered, leaning down and kissing her forehead lightly. Before you fall asleep, who is it that sent you after me? Gabriel, she got out as her eyes began to drift closed again. I thought as much, he grimaced. Don't worry, Yuma, I'll take care of everything. You're safe now. As long as I can do something about it, no one will hurt my Yuma ever again. Issei, she whispered before succumbing to exhaustion. Now, Issei said, lifting her like the delicate angel she was. Let's get you home. Where exactly do you plan on taking her? Where do you think? My place, of course. I look forward to you explaining to your parents why you're bringing your unconscious girlfriend back to your house, Yahweh grinned. Whose mind is full of lust now, huh? It was certainly an interesting conversation to say the least. Issei got home to a panicking mother from how late he arrived, who panicked even more seeing the unconscious girl in his arms. His father gave him a thumbs up, which embarrassed Issei to no end and got Yahweh laughing uproariously, while his mother grilled him for every detail on exactly what he did to this poor girl. He managed to convince her not to press into Yuma's personal life story too much, but, after explaining what he did, his mother hit him over the head and then hugged him, saying that even though he was an idiot, that she was extremely proud of him. Line break beep, beep, Ezra 10. 4, beep, beep, arise, for it is your task, and we are with you, be strong and do it. Beep beep. Yuma awoke confused. As she opened her eyes, she realized that her surroundings weren't familiar and there was a weird alarm clock that she felt some sort of strange personal hatred for. Quickly destroying it with a light spear, satisfied that at least one issue had been resolved, she set out to figure out where she was and how she had gotten there, as well as why she felt so different. Come to think of it, why was she in this form? Normally, her fallen angel form would come back whenever she was asleep. Knock knock, a soft knock came on the door outside. Yuma, are you awake? I'm coming in, okay. My eyes are closed, Issei said as he entered his own room with his eyes closed. Issei? She asked, confused. What was he doing here? Are you dressed? He asked. Yes, she blushed. We didn't do anything. Did we? Don't tell me Calawarner rubbed off on me that much. How are you doing? He asked, sitting beside her and taking her hand in his, rubbing it softly. Where am I, and what am I doing here? She asked him. Try to remember. Think about last night, he told her, holding her hand firmly. Last night, they had their date. It was a lot of fun, she remembered. They spent the whole day out together and Issei paid for everything no matter how she tried to trick him or distract him to let her pay for something. Afterward, she took him to the park near the fountain so she could kill him. The thought alone made her want to be sick. Then he gave her that necklace. Issei noticed as she reached absently for her chest as if searching for something. I hope I didn't lose it, she thought. What happened after that? Her eyes widened as she started to remember. He told her he always knew she was a fallen angel. That he knew it was her mission to bring him there. And kill him. And he said he didn't care. That she was a good person and that he would protect her. She remembered telling him her story. How she fell from grace in fear and shame. And then, he did something that she couldn't begin to fathom and her wings grew white and then, nothing. I take it you remember now? Issei asked her, smiling. Whoa, slow down. Yuma had launched herself at him, burying herself in his embrace as he hugged her protectively, chuckling slightly. I don't know what you did, or how you did it. But, thank you. Of course, Yuma, he replied quietly, pulling back slightly. He reached into his pocket and pulled the necklace back out, putting it back around her neck and gently pressing the ornament to her chest. There, I think you were looking for that, weren't Yuma? Did you destroy my alarm clock? Her face grew to levels of red never before experienced as she tried to apologize. I didn't, I did but I didn't mean, I swear it was an accident. I'm really sorry, Issei. I really am. You really are an angel, he exclaimed, picking her up and squeezing her. Finally, I hated that alarm clock so much but I couldn't get rid of it because of a stupid bet. You're the best. Issei, she squeaked out. He put me down. Oh, yeah, sorry, he chuckled, setting her back on the bed and scratching his head awkwardly. I just really hated that clock. I'll just make another bet with you so you have to get another one, Yahweh shrugged. Mark my words, Issei, you will have my alarm clock. Who was that? Yuma asked. There's a lot to explain, Issei chuckled sheepishly. And quite a bit I have to apologize for, so, let's go have breakfast so I can feed you before you try to kill me again. This was his worst idea yet. A terrible idea. Why did he do this again? He had no idea, he just knew that he shouldn't have done it. His mind had betrayed him. What was the point in continuing if his brain would give him ideas like this? Why oh why did he bring Yuma downstairs? So, this is the girl, his father asked. She's definitely a cute one. I'd say she's a keeper. Dad, Issei groaned while Yuma just turned red in embarrassment. Now, dear, scolded Mickey. I'm sure Yuma is very nervous right now. I mean, she's meeting her true love's parents after spending the night in his bed. It's understandable that she'd be a little uncomfortable. Don't worry, Yuma dear. Neither of you are helping at all, Issei complained as Yuma tried to stay slightly behind him to hide her bright red face. Yuma is just very confused right now. Could you two please go upstairs so I can talk to her? Now, just because you're going to be in charge of heaven soon doesn't mean you're in charge of us, Mickey chastised. He's what? Yuma thought to herself. We'll go upstairs when Michael gets here. For now, I want to get to know my future daughter-in-law. We just met this week. And she only asked me out so she could kill me, Issei defended. She did what now? His mother asked. Did I forget to mention that part? He chuckled awkwardly. I know you have moral standards, but you may want to cast one of those memory adjustment spells if you want to live, Issei, Yahweh suggested. Ding dong. Looks like you two have to go upstairs. That's Michael. Bye-bye, Issei told them, pushing the two towards the stairs. Off you go. Chop chop. We're not done talking about this, Issei. Mickey scolded. We'll be back. That's what they all say, he mumbled to himself, quickly heading to the door. Morning, Michael, you have news for me. Good morning to you as well, Issei. May I come in? Michael smiled. I hope that smile means something good. Sure, come on in, he gestured. Thank you, Issei. I wouldn't say necessarily something good per se, more of oh. Who's this? Michael asked. Michael. Yes, father. When was the last time you checked the system? I believe it was yesterday evening before dinner. I had paperwork to do so I could come to meet with Issei this morning. Why do you ask? You're in the clear, Issei. Quick, come up with something convincing while I distract him. You realize you just said that out loud, right? Issei deadpanned. All right, Michael, this is Yuma. Yuma, this is Archangel Michael. Before either of you flip out, I'd like us all to sit down at the table. Sound good? Good. Yuma followed his lead, which was him forcibly shoving the two of them into the dining room and into seats while opening and closing her mouth trying to understand why it was that the Archangel Michael, the second in command of heaven, was currently here and talking with Issei as if they were good friends. All right, Yuma, I'm sure you probably remember Michael, though Michael may not remember Yuma. I'll try to explain. Come on, Michael, you remember Yuma. She was the one that always followed Azazel around, remember? She was so little then. Look how she's grown. Yahweh spoke with pride. That sounds familiar, though I can't say I remember her. I'm truly sorry, I'm not as good as father as with names, Michael apologized. Father, Yuma asked. All right, first why don't I explain who, or I guess what I am, to you, Yuma? Pay attention, okay? And don't freak out. Ready? Good. All right, so, you are aware of the system of sacred gears in Longinus. There are 13 known Longinus, however, there are 15 Longinus that God actually made. I'm currently the wielder of one of the two undiscovered ones. Are you following? Yuma nodded. Good. All right, So the sacred gear I possess is known as Heavenly Crown. You've heard of the boosted gear and divine dividing, I'm sure. This is rather similar to those. However, instead of hosting the soul of one of the two heavenly dragons, mine hosts the soul of the god from the Bible. Yuma's mouth opened in shock. SCU. In. Soul. God. Father, she sputtered out. It's been a long time, Yuma, Yahweh greeted. Don't worry, Issei's a great host. Looks like someone's getting soft on me, Issei teased. Quiet, brat, okay, you with me so far, Yuma, she nodded. Good. So, Michael, on Monday Yuma invited me out for a date. We went yesterday and I figured out from our recent discussion as well as her general actions throughout the day, that the reason she invited me was to either kill me or capture me to get rid of any unknown variables in town for when Gabriel came by. She was rather upset towards the end, to put it lightly, so I took a guess that it was the former and it turns out I was right. So, Yuma is a fallen angel whose initial goal was to take you out of the equation for Gabriel's attack. Michael asked as Issei nodded and Yuma looked down in shame. Now, I guess you'd figure it out eventually, Issei chuckled sheepishly. I kinda, sorta. Got her story of how she fell and I might have used my balance breaker to bypass God's system. And I kinda forcibly forgave her. Michael stared at him for the longest 30 seconds of Issei's life in what could be described as a hodgepodge of confusion, shock, amazement, pride, anger, and disbelief. Okay, he said slowly. So, you forgave Yuma by ignoring the system we have in place for fallen angels to earn their forgiveness, because you alone decided she deserved it. Yuma's eyes started to water as she got a worried look on her face. She was scared. What was going to happen to him? Would he fall like she did? Were they going to punish him? Would he be warmth? Once again, she felt warmth. Issei had noticed her panic and took one of her hands in his, squeezing it reassuringly. I did. And I don't regret it in the least, he said confidently, making Yuma tear up even more. Unfortunately, that's not all. All right, what did you do? Michael sighed. Oh, this is a big one, Yahweh chuckled. He accidentally killed her. The idiot thought he was stronger than the system I created to run the world. You what? Yuma asked, looking at him in confusion, while Michael just shook his head. I don't know if I should be surprised or not, but Issei, why don't you finish the story, though I think I know where this is heading. Yeah, he answered sheepishly. So, apparently, bypassing God's system is really difficult. None of what I did should have been possible. After I forgave Yuma I sorta lost control, I guess. And the power I used to forgive her and the system rejecting it started to tear apart her soul, a little bit. My soul. She shivered slightly, lightly grabbing her head in various places as if to make sure nothing was trying to escape. Don't worry, Yuma, you're perfectly alright. I just kinda broke a major rule to make sure that you didn't accidentally die, he admitted. So, I realized you were dying. And sorta used my brave saint card to bind your service to me in heaven until one of us should die. Idiot, Michael rubbed his face in annoyance. I'm really sorry. I couldn't live with myself if you died after I promised not to hurt you. If you want to hate me, I understand. I essentially forced you to become my servant, so, if you want, I won't ever order you to do anything. Even if I lose my deck because of it, you can do whatever you like and hit me or hate me or do anything you want. I'm really. Issei was cut off by giggles from Yuma. She kept giggling until she broke out into laughter. Oh no. I did so much damage to her brain she's broken. What am I going to do? He's an idiot, Yahweh confirmed. Issei, you dummy, she giggled more. How could I possibly hate you? You saved my life. You made my dream come true. I'm an angel again. I've wanted to go back to heaven for as long as I can remember. What is there to be even slightly angry about? What do you mean? I forcefully, for all intents and purposes, enslaved you for all time. That's one of the worst things I could have possibly done. So, I would be dead if you hadn't saved me, Issei. Even if I was enslaved, I owe you everything. Besides, why wouldn't I want to serve you? I get to spend my life helping heaven and the person who did so much more for me than anyone else has ever done. That's the best present I could have ever asked for, she smiled. I guess you could say you enslaved me, but I don't really care. I haven't known you very long, but just from what I've seen, and from what you've said, I don't have anything to worry about. For whatever reason, I feel safe when I'm with you. Safer than I've ever felt before. I'll stay with you, Issei, forever. Or at least as long as you'll have me by your side. Yuma, he said, eyes wide. Hopefully, she can teach you more about women. You suck at talking to them, Yahweh said. No, I don't, Issei snapped back. So, you're God? Yuma asked. How, exactly? Are you inside of Issei? I don't mean any disrespect, my lord, I'm just. Just ignore me. I'm probably just. Now, my child. All will be explained in due time. And for all intents and purposes, I'm not God anymore. I'm just the soul of the heavenly crown. That title fell from me long ago. You may call me Yahweh or Father if you wish. Yes, my Father, she said, slightly uncomfortably. I like this one, Issei. You'd better be good to her. Especially if you plan on getting one of those harems you seem to talk about so much. I do not talk about harems all the time, Issei shouted, blushing. You talk about them all the time. You and my parents. I've never given my opinion one way or the other. You do realize that I'm in your soul, right? And you've allowed me to view your mind more than once. That's just. No comment. All right, I think we should move on, Michael interrupted. I'll come up with a suitable punishment for you later, Issei, but for now, let me tell you what I came here for. Right? Sorry, Yuma, just so you know, please don't share anything we talk about outside of this room unless explicitly given permission by myself or Issei, who is now, essentially, your direct superior for all matters in relation to heaven. Understood. Yuma nodded quickly, straightening herself up to what she hoped was a more presentable position. Good. Now, under your theory, which is the assumption that Kokabeel is coming to Kuo to reignite the war. Hold on a second, Michael. We have Yuma here. We can just confirm everything with her. Will you answer some questions about what your group is doing here, Yuma? Issei asked. Of course. She nodded. Anything I can do to help. All right. So, you already confirmed that Kokabeel is in charge. The theory I came up with is that Kokabeel stole Excalibur's Rapidly, Nightmare, and Transparency in order to provoke the Heaven faction. He plans to bring them to Kuo to assassinate the two devil heiresses with the swords in order to reignite the war. Is that all correct? You figured out all of that? How? Yuma asked, bewildered. That's most of it. I just don't understand how you. Detective work is kind of his only real talent, Yahweh shrugged, earning a giggle from Yuma. Jerk. Issei grumbled. Anyway, is there anything else that I missed? And can you confirm my theory? That's almost all they told me. The only other thing I know is that we're supposed to have a sacred gear delivered here soon. I think it was a nun that was excommunicated. I guess Kokabeel arranged for her to be transported to Kuo so we could extract her sacred gear to strengthen our forces, she admitted. But I don't really know anything else. Excommunicated nun, he muttered. That's too coincidental to ignore. The Holy Maiden had twilight healing, right, Michael? Yes, she did, and yes, they did excommunicate her. In all likelihood, Kokabeel used a fallen angel to come to her aid in her time of need. In reality, he's just tricking her so he can kill her for her sacred gear. Wait, we have to kill her to take the sacred gear. They just said it was a ritual. Yuma asked in shock. Well, it is a ritual, but the ritual kills the host, Michael explained. So, I'm part of a conspiracy to kill even more people, huh? She looked down in further shame. Close, but not quite, Issei said. You were a part of a conspiracy to kill more people. And when you were part of that conspiracy, it was unwilling participation. Besides, you're with me now, so none of that matters, right? How can you say none of that matters? She snapped, surprising him that the timid girl seemed to be gone. I tried to kill you. The only reason I asked you out was so I could kill you and bring your corpse to Kokabeel. Then I would have murdered a nun to steal her sacred gear for myself. Then I I would have used it to hurt even more people. To kill even more. Yuma, he said softly, embracing her tightly as she once again started to cry without realizing it. With every decision you make, there are consequences. There are results and changes to everything around you. Choosing to have coffee instead of tea could end up saving the world, theoretically. I'm completely lost, Yahweh admitted. So, yes. If you had gone through with killing me, maybe all of that would have happened. Maybe you would have become cold and heartless. But you know what? You didn't. You couldn't. No matter how hard you tried to convince yourself to kill me, you couldn't do it. To me, that means that none of those other things matter. You made the choice to allow me to live, and in turn, I made the choice to forgive you. And I will always make the choice to forgive you, Yuma, he reassured. That part of you who is capable of killing innocents. It's not there. It will never be there. I'll always keep it at bay. You already said you'd stay with me. Something that didn't happen doesn't change that fact, okay? So, don't make such a big deal out of it. You're safe, I'm safe, and you can help us protect all those people that could be in danger, and that's all that matters. Yuma just continued to cry into Issei as he rubbed her back. Is that everything, Michael? Almost. Firstly, you can't go to heaven until we get this whole thing with your deck resolved. I don't really want to explain her return without the forgiveness process. Also, I was going to tell you that the Holy Maiden will be in Kuo at some point this week. I'd like you to keep her safe. Do anything you have to ensure she trusts you and feels safe and welcome with you. I also want you to fully coordinate with the devils here. Between you and their peerages, I'm sure this threat can be averted. I'll contact Azazel again and tell him what we know. In addition, I'm sending you some reinforcements. They'll arrive sometime this upcoming week, Michael explained. What aren't you telling me? Issei asked suspiciously. Well, that's all I have time for. I'll leave you two alone. Looks like you have some work to do, he said, as Yuma whimpered slightly. You're lucky Yuma's more important than whatever it is you're hiding, Issei grumbled. I'll see you later, Issei. Don't forget, you aren't off the hook for anything, so don't expect it to go unpunished. With a wave, Michael left, returning to heaven. Crafty angel, Issei said, mostly to himself. All right, Yuma, why don't we get some breakfast? Yuma shook her head and hugged him harder as he tried to gently pry her off him. I don't think she wants you to let go just yet, Yahweh chuckled. How am I supposed to get breakfast for us like this? He whined, standing up and carrying her with him. Warm, safe, Yuma thought, burying her face into him again. Line break, Issei. Ahem, she cleared her throat lightly as he started to show signs of waking up. Proverbs 12:11, whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits lacks sense. Smack. Ow, hey, Issei, what was that for? Yuma pouted, rubbing her head. Huh, Yuma? He asked, startled as he scrambled to sit up. Why are you in my bed? Why'd you hit me? I didn't. Wait, my alarm clock was destroyed. Why did you wake me up with a proverb? He asked, bewildered. Father told me that's how you like to be woken up, she told him, shyly. I didn't want to sleep by myself, so I came in here and he told me that you liked being woken up with his proverbs, so he gave me one to read to you. Ha ha ha, I told you, you will always wake up to my wisdom. Yahweh cackled evilly, but this is just the beginning. Soon, everyone will wake up to denounce the sin of sloth. Muahahaha. Why can't there be a mute button for my soul? Is grumbled, rubbing his eyes tiredly. Just don't listen to Yahweh, okay? I do not like waking up to his proverbs. It was the worst bet I ever made. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again, okay? Please forgive me, she begged, holding her hands together. Relax, would you? He sighed, rubbing her head affectionately, as he moved to get up. Yahweh was just pranking me and you happen to be the easiest way to go about doing it. I have to find a way to bring that confidence of yours up, you know. You don't have to be so worried about disappointing me, you know. Right. I'm sorry, you're so cute. He gushed, hugging her affectionately. Don't apologize so much, okay? You didn't do anything wrong. Oh okay, she squeaked out. Now, he sighed, you have to go back to your own room. Why? Because I need to get dressed, you need to get dressed, and then we need to eat breakfast so I can go to school. What am I supposed to do? Well, you can stay here and get bombarded with questions from my mom. Yeah, that's not a great idea. Unfortunately, it's our only option. He rubbed his face in annoyance. I love mom to death, but she can be difficult with these sorts of things. Sorry about what you're about to go through. Wait a second, why can't I go with you? She asked, flailing slightly as he started to carry her to the door. Because you aren't enrolled at the school. If you really want to, I'll talk with Sona about getting you enrolled, but for now, you have to stay here. Now go get changed, he told her, rubbing her head and gesturing to her room. Okay, she said sadly, walking to her room. Issei shut the door and sighed for the umpteenth time. She really is adorable, but we have got to work on her self-confidence and dependency issues. Yes, you do. I have no issues spending most of my time with her, but she has to be able to do things without me, too. It took 10 minutes for me to convince her she had to stay in the guest room until we could find her a more permanent living situation instead of sleeping with me, and she came in while I was asleep anyway. She's just so irritating. I thought you liked her. Yahweh asked, suspiciously. Sweet and adorable, he mentally groaned, finishing up putting on his uniform. That's the problem. She's just the sweetest thing. It breaks my heart to see her even a little sad or disappointed, but I can't feel like that just for stepping away long enough to shower. I see. Well, I'm sure you'll think of something. Hold on a minute, you don't have any suggestions for me. You're the worst, he deadpanned, leaving the room to find a smiling Yuma outside of his door. Ready for breakfast? She asked. Sure, let's go, he smiled back. Line break. Issei was on his way to school thinking about everything that had happened this past week. He started going to public school, made a few friends, discovered his home is devil territory, uncovered the plan to restart the bloodiest war in history, went on a date with someone who planned to kill him, saved said date who planned to kill him from a terrible fate, and broke several rules of the universe and heaven. Truly, fate had it out for him. Either that or he was in some sort of poorly written anime that has questionable choices for main characters. It was probably just fate. Fate always had been a cruel mistress. I mean, he was expected to go to school and leave Yuma behind. With that terrifying creature known as a curious and protective mother. While she looked at him with those sad eyes and adorable pout that. No, the more you think of it the more of a hold it has on you, he reminded himself as he crossed the bridge towards school. His special bridge where he met Yuma for the first time. So, I see the girl failed to kill you, came a male voice from above. I was so distracted thinking about everything that happened, I didn't even notice. Damn it, Issei thought to himself, jumping slightly before putting his guard up. Who are you? I take it you killed Rainer. You must be pretty tough to kill that girl, but you stand no chance against me. She may have more power, but she's inexperienced and foolish, the fallen angel above him said. He wore a trench coat and black fedora that shaded his piercing gaze. I'm sorry to interrupt, but who's Rainer? Issei asked. You must have memory loss, boy. You can't even remember the name of the woman who tried to kill you, he sneered. Though I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. Humans always were lowly creatures. Oh, dear, you mean Yuma, don't you? I suppose I would change my name too if I had to work with someone like you, he shook his head. Poor old man, didn't even know the real name of the woman he worked with. What was that? He barked. Listen here, Crow, Issei snapped. You're going to leave. You're going to go back to the Grigori and confess your crimes and accept any punishment they give you. In exchange, I won't rip your wings off and kill you myself. Wrath, Issei. Be careful, Yahweh warned. He hurt Yuma. I don't care. Cocky brat, aren't you? Just because you can extract information out of some pathetic whore like Rainer doesn't mean you can do anything about me. Says a lot about her that she failed though, doesn't it? Warner had no trouble with her target, he spoke with a mixture of cockiness and pride. What did you do? Issei roared. Did you kill another innocent? In case they were some sort of unexplained variable in your sick plan for war. You really got a lot out of that bitch, didn't you? I don't know who it was, brat, not that it matters. Some pink-haired slut who thinks she's hot shit with a sword. Oh, no, Yahweh groaned aloud. You should not have said that. Who was that? He asked, looking around. Show yourself. Your name. Issei spoke with a cold, emotionless tone. Give me the name of the first man I'll kill with my bare hands. Cheeky brat, it's the last name you'll ever learn. Danasik. Now, prepare yourself to die, Issei yelled, releasing his 5 shimmering gold wings and unleashing his holy aura. As repentance for your sins and crimes, I sentence you to death by my hands. May Cocytus have mercy on your soul. 5 wings? He asked in shock, stumbling in the air. Fuck, I need to get out of here. Heavenly crown, Issei announced, replacing his halo with his holy crown. Alicides to Theo. Chains of God I can't move. Danasik thought in fear, as he struggled to try and escape. No matter how hard he struggled, he was stuck. Out of thin air, chains made up of the brightest light he'd ever seen wrapped around his whole body, pinning his legs together and his arms to his sides. What did you do? What sort of holy magic is this? I have judged you, Danasik, for your sins. I have ruled that your sentence is to be carried out. Now, I shall become your executioner, Issei declared in a regal tone, holding out his palm as he approached the frantically struggling Danasik. You can't do this. What on earth are you? Danasik yelled. I am the Lord thy God. Disappear, he said simply, pressing his palm to Danasik's head. The fallen angel began to scream and writhe in pain as holy magic filled his system. His body slowly began to fail, its basic functions ceasing until he gave one final twitch and passed on. The ultimate divine punishment of angels, teles tu ectelist, will of the executioner taught to me by the Lord himself. Good riddance to a forgotten soul. Don't you think that was a bit too far? Yahweh asked as Issei rid himself of his wings and sacred gear. It was a quick death developed by you, to provide satisfaction to the wronged and mercy to the instigator. He was only in pain for a brief period, Issei answered, disregarding the question entirely. I need to get to the school. Don't lose yourself to wrath, child. Not because it's a sin, but because those who fall to wrath rarely come back the same as they once were. Issei ignored him and ran the rest of the way to school, avoiding passers-by without even a glance in their direction. All he cared about was finding out if she was safe. He arrived shortly after, though he was one of the first there. Usually, he got to school about 15 minutes early, which was when most of the students got there. They had time to see friends, enjoy the schoolyard, or do other things they couldn't do during class. Since he sprinted most of the way, he was over 30 minutes early, so he resigned himself to wait. 5 minutes went by and students started to file in at a slow pace. 10 minutes and most of the students were there. 20 minutes and no one else was entering as practically everyone was already there. 30 minutes and the bell rang, but Issei wasn't ready to leave yet. 40 minutes and he knew, it was really true. He'd waited too long, he was too afraid of the consequences of acting. As a result, someone died. Because he was too scared, one of his friends died. The first person to talk to him, to be openly friendly to him died because he was too concerned with politics. How would he tell Murayama? Should he tell her it was his fault? What about her family, the family that lost? Issei. Hey, Issei, came a voice, running through the courtyard. What are you doing out here? Class started Issei. Issei had immediately sprinted over and wrapped his arms around her tightly. You're alive. What's gotten into you? Put me down, she squeaked, trying to wriggle out of his grasp. Are you hurt? You're okay. You are Katase, right? Turn around. No, wait, stay still. I need to make sure you have no stab wounds anywhere. Moving could exacerbate. What are you talking about, Issei? Stop. What are you doing, pervert? She exclaimed as he tried to inspect her for damage. You don't appear to have any weight a second, pervert. I'm not a pervert. Then why are you grabbing and inspecting me? Do you have some sort of a lower back fetish? Is that why you tried lifting my shirt? Or were you looking at my butt? I was not, he defended. I'm trying to make sure you don't have any stab wounds. Why would I have stab wounds, Issei? Think with your brain and not the perverted side. And to think, I thought you were better than this. You're a Catholic, I think, act like it. She scolded. Hold on a minute, let me wait a second. He paused, narrowing his eyes and looking closer. Come with me. Issei, I just told you to HMMPH. She was silenced as he covered her mouth with his hand. I'm gonna need you to trust me and not say anything, okay? Can you do that? She nodded. Good. Follow me. After he took his hand off of her, he led her quietly up to the roof, avoiding anyone in the school. Now will you tell me why you're acting like this? Do I need to tell Murray that you really are a pervert? Dragging an innocent maiden up to the roof to have your way with her. That is not what's happening right now, Issei defended. Sure seems like it, Yahweh said, crunching on what sounded like popcorn. What have I told you about eating in there? You better not get crumbs on my soul. What a strange sentence, God muttered to himself but was ignored. Okay. Deep breath, Issei, he told himself aloud. Katase is still alive. That's my question. Why are you alive? Are you saying you'd rather me not be alive? No, not at all. Have you met anyone suspicious lately? Have you had strange gaps in your memory? Have you had strange dreams of seeing yourself die? Have you sworn to yourself that something happened only to find out that no one else has any memory of it? Slow down, Issei, Katase sighed. One question at a time. No, I haven't met anyone suspicious and I haven't had any gaps in my memory. I guess I did have a dream that felt real though. Tell me everything that happened, every detail, he insisted. If I tell you, will you tell me why you're acting so, whatever this is today? She asked angrily, putting her hands on her hips. Girls don't like being touched, groped, and inspected without their permission, you know. I apologize, but I was worried you were dead or dying, all right. Now, please tell me what the dream was about. All right, fine, I'm not some helpless damsel in distress you know, she huffed. Now, let's see, I was coming home from the store when a woman came and asked me for help. She was pretty tall for a woman and had blue hair. Oh, she had massive tits too. I mean, those things were huge. And they were out in the open too. I mean, not all the way, but she wore this red outfit that made them. I know I said every detail, but I do not need you to describe this woman's breasts to me. Could you get to the point? Right, sorry, I got a little carried away, didn't I? So did they, I guess. Anyway, she asked me if she could help her move something with her car. She said it wasn't particularly heavy, it was just too big to move with one person. Being the wonderful and helpful person I am, I decided to follow her and help her out, she declared proudly. But, when we got out of view of the other people, she seemed different. I don't know how to explain it. Then, these massive black wings came out from her back and she turned around and grinned at me. Like an evil smile grin. Like in the movies. Then she said something to me and stabbed me with light that she made appear out of thin air. Did anything else happen? Issei pressed, getting more and more concerned. No, not that I remember. After that, I woke up. It was a really real feeling dream, but it was just that. My mom yelled at me for not going to the store, so I had to go out this morning. That's why I was so late, she admitted. I have another question that may seem very inappropriate, so I apologize in advance, he breathed. When you woke up from this dream, were you naked? What, were you naked? Did you not remember going to sleep or have memories of wearing clothes and then somehow wake up naked? Were you peeping on me? How do you know where I live? She yelled, covering herself with her hands. You really are a pervert. I was just messing with you before, but you HMMPH. HMMPHHRRMMPPHMM. Would you stop wriggling and yelling? Issei said, trying to hold her still. Ew. Don't lick me. What are you doing? Let me go, Issei. She backed away slowly. Please, Katase, listen to me. No. Were you really expecting me to just let you do perverted things to me just because I thought you were cute? Move. I have class to get to. Katase, this is important. Please, just hear me out. Why should I? Because I care about your safety, he snapped before sighing. Listen, Katase, the world isn't all that it seems. There are things out there you would believe only exist in your nightmares. Things you wouldn't believe could even exist there. For every shred of this place you call reality, made up by our individual knowledge and awareness, there is an endless expanse of what you've never seen. Issei, what are you talking about? She asked, backing away more, her voice shaking. You're scaring me. I'm not human, Katase, and you aren't either, he admitted. That dream you had, it wasn't a dream at all. It was real, painfully real, terrifyingly real. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it from happening. I had every opportunity to prevent it, but I didn't. So, for that, I apologize. For now, if there is any part of you that can still trust me, just keep this quiet just for today. Please, I'll explain everything to you after school and answer any question you could ask that I could possibly answer if you'll just trust me one last time. I don't know what any of that means, Issei, she warned. But you'd better have a damn good excuse for doing these things to me. You don't get to use my trust in you to start touching me under the pretext of caring about my safety. Please. Fine, she yelled. Fine. This last time, I'll trust you. I expect you to come up with something good. I liked you, Issei. I'm just really upset right now. I have to go to class. With that, she walked off. Wow, you handled that really poorly, Yahweh commented. Don't you think I know that? He snapped. I was scared, okay. The description he gave, it was undeniably her. It couldn't have been anyone else. When she didn't show, I was certain. But then, she came. She was alive. I couldn't think about anything other than making sure she was safe. She was my first friend my age since Irina. I couldn't lose her, especially if I could have done something to stop it. I understand, Issei. Fear is a powerful force. Fear that you're going to lose something important to you. Fear that you won't be able to protect someone and fear that they'll hate you for failing them. As a leader, as a person, as an angel, and as a man, Issei, you will experience fear of all kinds. You will grow stronger because of that fear, but you must face it head on with a clear head and an unwavering conviction. Your conviction, Issei, is your blade. If you keep it sharp and strike strongly and precisely, you can cut through anything, but if you let it dull, it will break, leaving you alone and defenseless. Remember this, Issei, and next time, you won't need to beg to regain the trust you nearly lost. Thank you, Yahweh, thank you, Issei breathed out in relief, as he collapsed to his knees. Line break skipping class. Such a naughty underclassman, Akano teased as she poured another cup of tea. Thanks, Akano, he thanked, taking the cup from her and sipping it slowly. So, what can I do for you, Issei? Rias asked from her desk. Over the past week, the two had come close to what you would describe as friends. Issei had spent some time in her clubroom's company, interacting and getting to know them. They still seemed weary, as he was an angel, but they were able to get along amicably. Rias seemed the most willing to accept him as a comrade, while Kiba and Kaneko proved more difficult. I'll ask pretty straightforwardly, I guess. Are you the reason Katase is still alive or is it Sona? He asked. How do you know about that? She asked, narrowing her eyes. It's a bit of a story, so get comfortable, he sighed. Issei told her about his meeting with Yuma and how she decided to come with him, bending the truth to say she just agreed to go with him instead of admitting that he used the power of God to forgive her and then made her a brave saint, about discovering and confirming Kokobeel's plans with the Excaliburs and the danger they were in, and about his fight with Danesik. I know it's asking for a lot, but Katase is my friend. The first one I've had in years. I just want to know what happened to her. That's a lot to take in, Rias admitted. Well, to answer your question, yes. I've had my eye on Katase for a while now but haven't taken her in. She's well known in the Kendo group and rarely alone, so it's been difficult to get an opportunity to ask her. Kaneko was tailing her the other day when a fallen angel killed her. I resurrected her as my second knight. So, she's in your peerage now? Issei asked. Yes. Thank you. He kneeled. Thank you. So much. For saving her. I owe you more than words can express. That's not necessary. I was happy to rescue her. In fact, Kiba should be bringing her here shortly. Rias waved him off, internally smirking at being owed a favor. But I will keep that in mind for the future. Then, before she gets here, I have 2 more things to say. Issei stood and faced her. Yahweh. On it. More hammers, crashing planks, and buzzsaw noises rang out. Good to go. If you ever do anything to hurt her, Issei started, with a terrifying tone and pace to his speech. Slowly, as he spoke, his wings began to appear, white and feathery as the clouds. This time, he was doing something different though. His wings came out, not all at once, or in pairs, but one at a time, slowly, as if cementing in their minds that he was stronger. He was far out of their realm of ability to touch should they try. I will not sit here and let it happen. She may be your servant, but she did not ask for it. It is my fault that you were forced to intervene. Should she be treated well, you have me in your debt. As muscle, as a diplomat, anything you could request that I could give you is yours. But should you harm her, should you dare to hurt someone under my protection, you will learn why the angels strike fear into the hearts of those who sin. Rias was frozen in fear. What had once been a casual, friendly, peace-loving, mid-tier angel was now a force of nature. 5 pairs of shimmering white wings, dripping with holy power, lit the room up with a holy glow. His gaze penetrated through where she sat. Do we understand each other? Rias could only nod. Having an angel with my power on your side is not something you should take lightly, Rias. Why? President, I brought her, came a male voice from outside, as the door opened. President. Ah, Katase screamed. What is that? Everything's fine. Kiba, Rias stuttered out, as Issei moved to the side, still not facing the door. I'm perfectly safe. Don't forget that I'd like nothing more than to be friends, Rias, but those that fall under my wings will be weathered from the storm. Issei spoke in a more normal tone as his wings receded and his halo disappeared. Issei, Katase yelled. What on earth just how did where? Now, Katase, calm yourself, Issei said, walking past the shell-shocked Akano. Remember you said you'd trust me one last time. That's why you're here. We'll say a deal I suppose, to make sure nothing happens. If you want to speak with me when Rias finishes, come visit me. I sent you my address earlier. What did you do to our president? Kiba demanded, still trembling slightly. I offered her a choice. Her greatest wish or her greatest nightmare. I will maintain my belief in the righteous, whether it is in a room full of devils or gods. Someday, Kiba, we will all drink together and celebrate the peace we've built by accepting the corpses we've left behind. With that, Issei walked out. Don't you think that was a little bit too far? Yahweh asked. I get the whole, treat her well, or else, notion, but, really. We'll all drink together and celebrate peace by accepting each other's corpses. That's what you say, way to appear friendly. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Don't give me ambiguous, unrelated Sun Tzu quotes. Issei. Hey, Issei.